The third step in the tutorial, create a feature component. This doesn't create a new, any kind of new look in the UI. It re-architects it in a way that recognizes that this list component should be separated from the details component here that includes this little editor. So this makes this the parent component of this. Let's take a look at the code. In order to separate out the details from the list component, we needed to create a brand new component. So here it is, hero detail component, and it has the familiar elements. Hero detail.component, the TypeScript, the logic of the component, the spec, the test element of the component used for unit testing, the HTML template, and finally the private CSS. For the most part, this HTML was cut from the heroes component and pasted in here. Its only change is to change from selected hero to hero, the idea being that this component could display the details of any hero as it grows, not just the selected hero. Otherwise, the logic is the same. Now that is, the HTML is the same. Looking back at the heroes component HTML, where we cut that HTML from that ended up in heroes detail component, we now have a child component, app heroes detail, that comes from the selector of the heroes detail. So in here is these brackets surrounding hero. This is binding to a property, the hero property. It lets without the brackets. This is a static property like normal HTML. With these brackets, it binds to an active TypeScript expression that might change. So that in broader sense, it can be used for a lot of things. For example, in an image element, it could be used to change the source attribute and do so dynamically based on this expression. Here, we bind to the selected hero property coming from the heroes component TypeScript. That hasn't changed. We bind it here. But what are we binding it to? We're actually binding it to a property in the child, the hero property. So now we have an actively changeable property that's bound in the child component. Let's now look at the child TypeScript component to see that. It has to be decorated with @input to close the circle. And this indicates that it's optional, this question mark here. So it starts out life as undefined when the page is fresh. Remember, that's used for the conditional ngF expression, whether or not to show this at all. In fact, this is now still showing and hiding this component based on this expression here. We have to have a selected one. Okay. So a broader notion, the binding here using angle brackets can be used for a variety of things, not just binding a child property to a parent property. That's what it's being used for here, and that's quite a powerful idea. That's a way to pass information actively from the parent component to the child component, because you can create as many of these as you need, decorating them all in the TypeScript with the @input decorator that was imported up here. In summary, now we have two components on the screen, each minding its own business: the list of heroes component and the heroes detail component. And I hope you can see now a hint of how Angular thinks of developing a page, component at a time, that are put together to make a complete page. But the smaller the better, really, because that allows the TypeScript to be relatively simple, maybe not simple, but short, and just focused on its own job. Thank you.